All right, welcome to the Gentle Art Podcast with Gene Dunn. We have the privilege of being with Mr. George Padilla and Mr. Brian Cobham, both black belts in jiu-jitsu, both been training for 15 years, 12 years?
13.
Yeah, great, beautiful. And I'm so proud to be in the same room, in the company of both of you. I know you as very intelligent and strong and considerate practitioners, and you exemplify a lot of what we do at the dojo. And I'm just so happy and grateful that you came. Thank you both.
Thank you
for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So I thought we'd begin at like what brought you to the martial arts, why jiu-jitsu, and then take it from there. So Brian, like when did you start? Why did you start?
As a little kid, I've always loved like kung fu movies, and as you can see from my Instagram posts, my mom actually got me started in karate when I was young. Yeah,
I don't think I knew that.
No, I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you.
Where was it?
It was a gentleman on, I think he's still there, on Avenue L.
L?
Yeah, Avenue L and East 50 something street. I can't remember the name of the guy. Coco something. Yeah, sorry if I mispronouncing it. But I didn't stay there long. I got involved with basketball. That really kind of took over from there. Basketball. Got injured in
You played college ball?
I played like 1 year of college basketball. I played through high school. Got hurt playing a pickup game that I had no business playing.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. And jiu-jitsu kind of stumbled onto me. Like, I knew my cousin did something.
Right.
I didn't know exactly what it is that he did.
Right.
So one day I was watching UFC like everybody. I'm like, you know what? That looks cool. Let me call Gaines, find out what it is that he does. So I said, listen, I need a reputable school. But prior to coming to the school, I went and ventured out and went some places.
Did you take class or did you?
I took some introductory classes at some other places. And
I think I sort of remember you saying that.
And that kind of, I was like, this, I don't know, man.
Right.
Like, that kind of soured me a little bit.
Right.
Wow, nobody's talking to you. They're not coming up saying hello to you.
Yeah.
Finally Gabe was like, hey, look, go to this place, tell them I sent you.
It's like the mafia.
Yeah, And of all the places, like this guy trains everywhere. He knows everybody. Right. And he sent me here. So I was like, I'm making it my business to get here if he's sending me. I get there. I'll never forget my first introductory. It was with Professor Mendonis. We did the class. There was a class going on at the time. They closed off the area. He said, okay, pass my guard. I was like, what?
What is the guard?
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, get past my legs. Oh my God. I'll never forget that day. I felt so embarrassed. I'm like, how can I not pass this guy's? Like, it's embarrassing. But that motivated me. And he never knew this, but I'm like, I'm going to make it my business one day to get past his guard, And,
12 years later.
12 years later, finally.
Very cool, very cool. George, like, what brought you to martial arts, specifically jiu-jitsu, and how did you kind of make that happen?
I was thinking about this on the way in, right?
Yeah.
And I laughed when he said that because I grew up watching Run Shore.
Yeah.
Kung fu movies.
Yeah, of course.
On Channel 5, 3 p.m. And then we'd run around and karate chop each other and try to buy grappling hooks with my cousins. So it was always something cool. And then I didn't play. I played sports as a kid, but I was out of shape.
Yeah,
I was always on the heavier side, so I didn't have
an athletic background.
Yeah, that wasn't really. I played pickup games, but I didn't do that. And then I think I was in my late 20s, and around the time the UFC started,
right,
I had a friend of mine who happened to train jiu-jitsu, and he trained with Master Renzo Gracie. So we would talk about it, and he would always say, hey, seems like you have a knack for it, an eye for it. If you get into some shape and you want to take some classes, let me know. So I went out to New Jersey, and it was all the way out in South Jersey. So I used to drive from Brooklyn to Master Renzo had an academy out in South Jersey, and I would go train out there with my buddy Charlie. And they let me train in mixed classes. So I'd go and I did that for a few months, and I really liked it. I got into it. It was cool. And I said, look, this is great and everything, but it's an hour and a half away. How do I do this? And, I wasn't part of their program. Guys were really good to me. I was fortunate. I've been very lucky in jiu-jitsu that I've been fortunate to have good classmates. So guys were good to me, but I wasn't part of their curriculum. So things didn't make sense. I just kind of knew okay, had a rough idea on what to do. And guys would after class hang out with me and show me some stuff, but I wasn't part of their curriculum. So I was I want to go train somewhere full time. I want to really do this. This seems like something that I'd be really interested in doing. I got the bug really early on after a few months. And I asked Charlie, I was can you ask Master Renzo, from this area, who and where, I can go train. And they're I told them there's this place by my house and we were training at the time on 13th Avenue. And Charlie was oh yeah, go over there, run over there. It's you're training with someone who's seriously legit in the martial arts and the lineage, because I didn't know. I just kind of knew what I knew from the UFC. So I was oh, okay, cool. This is legit. And started training on 13th Avenue. Yeah.
Both of you mentioned the UFC, and it reminds me of I remember watching the first UFC, and by that time I had won every major karate tournament in this country, a traditional tournament. And I watched Hoist and I was oh crap. Wow. And by after UFC 2, my friend Brian was training with Hickson in California and had said to me, there's an American black belt out there, Craig Kukuk. You need to go see him. And then he sent me copies of Gracie in action. And for those of you who don't know, those were the tapes that circulated that changed everything. It was home videos that the Gracies had of them defending the challenge and all this stuff. And watching that, I was certainly hooked. And by UFC 3, I was with Kukuk. I was going. There were 2 classes in the city and 2 classes in South Jersey. And I would go Saturday at Oishi's and I'd drive out Sunday to South Jersey. Yeah. And it just was such the UFC, the hook, the thing, when you see something that is legit, that is it. And, Hoist says he said his heartbeat never got over 60 something beats a minute.
Yeah.
And I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
The other famous quote that I love that really cinched the deal was he said, you could put the devil in front of me and I was going to fight him. No matter who they put in front of me, I was going to go. Yeah. But I think for all of us, and I too came out of the Shaw Brothers and Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was for New York kids in the 1970s and 1980s, he was iconic. They say that the fourth element, the fourth pillar of hip hop was Kung Fu. It's the unspoken pillar, but that's the thing. Breakdancing, DJing, rapping, and graffiti, but the fourth pillar. So for our generation,
you got mixtapes and you got Kung Fu movies at the same spot, and that was a mission. You went out on it. You spent the whole day doing that,
and it was so impactful. It planted so many seeds, I think, for guys like us, and I really relate. Very much so. Those were really the inceptions. I'm going to get off on a little tangent and I'll swing it back. But Professor Danaher and I oftentimes talked about what the draw of jiu-jitsu really is. And, he's quoted as saying, jiu-jitsu is control, or his jiu-jitsu is control that leads to submission. And I'm not saying I'm responsible for him coming up with that, but we did have conversations early, pre that saying, that, I would tell him, I think it's about control. I think it's the thing that gave me so much desire and so much gas for the fire was that I was learning how to control not only myself, but another human being, or vice versa, my human being and myself. And that was very intoxicating. It was very like, it just kept me driving. Like, so I want to present that question to both of you. What do you think is like the driver for jujitsu? Like, you get into jujitsu, you're fascinated by it, but what's the thing that keeps you coming?
I'm gonna just piggyback on what you said. For me, it's the control. I'm constantly telling people when I'm training with them all the time, you're looking to get this submission, but you have no control over me whatsoever. And I want you to think about that. You know, I don't want you to feel bad if I sweep you and then you're stuck. I want you to understand that why aren't you looking to get control? They hear you every day. You know, head control, pin the person, pin your opponent. This kind of segues off into some other avenues, but I'll just keep it on the control piece. If you can't control someone, right, whether it's on the street, God forbid, or if it's just in a work situation, if you can't control that energy from an individual, you have to now like look at yourself now. Like, what am I doing to not, you know, get some control over the situation or diffuse the situation, or how can I better my position here? And, you know, like for me, I don't have to submit somebody. I was with Muhammad the other day. He's like, you're never looking to submit me. I said, I just want to work on control. If you want me to submit you, I will, but I don't get any gratification from doing that. I get gratification in knowing I can move from position to position, and you're having a very difficult time getting out of it, you know? And that for me is like the benefit of the control aspect.
Yeah, control, man. George?
Yeah, I think that was the seductive part.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that was the word I was looking for. It's seductive.
Because like watching the UFC, like you were like, well, wait a minute. Like this guy's like grabbing everybody, dragging them to the ground and strangling them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, like that was seductive. I was like, oh, I want to do that. That's cool. Like I wanted to be the guy that was head kicking people and chopping them up, but like this seemed way cooler. Like this seemed like it worked. Like it looked like it really worked. So when I started to train, and I'm not a big guy, like, you know, tall, and I was lucky enough that a lot of my classmates were bigger than me. So I was always afraid of like saying, oh man, like if I got attacked or if something was to happen to me and like somebody really big and strong grabbed me, like even when you're a kid, you wrestle, you understand that
you do.
Somebody, you know, you understand early in life, man, there's people that are stronger than you, and that's not fun to be on the other side of that. And jiu-jitsu was like magic.
Yeah.
It was like a superpower. Like, oh, wait a minute. Like I can control you to the point where you'll quit. I remember tapping to pressure.
Yeah.
And understanding like, oh, whoa, what? Like, wait a minute, you could make me tap without actually doing anything to me? Like that was, to me, was mind-blowing. You know?
I was just talking to Jamie Crowder yesterday. We were training and he was giggling. He's like, I remember the time that you told me that the first time I trained with Daniel Gracie, he was a brown belt and I was blue belt getting purple. And it was the day I got my purple belt. And he put his knee on my sternum and pulled my head up. And I just could not.
Yeah.
I just tapped. I was like, oh man,
this
like,
is good. Yeah.
And I just looked at him and he laughed at me, you know, like he was, but yeah, there's like
there's levels to it.
There, that's well put. There's levels. You know, I think that the subtle, the very subtle point here that we're saying, which I think is paradoxical, is like we come from a generation that looked at maybe, you know, in some ways karate and kung fu as it didn't work and that jiu-jitsu does work. And there are a couple points here, but one of the things that I had to like relearn, because I certainly believe in karate, I did when I was competing, although I knew, Mr. Miyazaki said to me very early on, if you want to be a real martial artist, go practice judo with Mr. Shina. He's like, and he said that I was like 18 or 19 years old. And I knew there was a fundamental gap in my karate training, but like it was poo-pooed. Like that first generation of jiu-jitsu people came out of taekwondo and karate and kung fu and wing chun and, you know, jeet kune do, and, you know, we were very jiu-jitsu centric. And only to realize that karate was working. It was just working in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we tried to kind of bring back to jiu-jitsu a little bit, or give jiu-jitsu. So you guys start coming, and then what happens for you? What's your experience in those first couple of years? Like, I know that, you have other experiences, you kind of go out into the jiu-jitsu world. Like, what prompted that? And then what did you discover?
I think, I'll tell you, I'll be honest. What prompted us to go out was the S training.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really prompted us. If I'm saying correct, right?
Well, for those of you who don't know, that I was very insistent in those years about having like a kind of flow style training,
Positional training.
because I saw a lot of people get super injured and never come back.
Yeah.
And all my years at Renzo's, and so I was trying to set a precedence for us that there was no one else doing it.
No.
There was kind of nothing. But so just a little for those of you who are listening that don't know what S training is, it was like positional kind of free rolling training. Go ahead.
But in my eagerness to try to prove, like, I got my blue belt, I want to go out and see how it is.
Yeah.
I didn't feel at the time like, okay, I get the S training.
Yeah.
But when are we going to actually do some sparring? Because I want to actually put these applications to the test.
Yeah, yeah.
And going out to a lot of these academies, it made me realize, like, okay, I get why we're doing the S training.
Yeah.
I get it. It's like you have to have some sort of measure of what you're doing. It can't just be, all right, you put the gi on and you got your belt, and you go. Yeah. And we saw that firsthand.
Yeah.
As we kind of kept venturing out little by little, we started to absorb a lot of the things that the other schools were doing as opposed to what we were doing. And what I mean in that sense is, you guys actually, and it took me some years to realize that you guys actually had a structure.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these other, and no disrespect to the other academies we went, they didn't really have a structure. It was pretty much, you go in, they'll show whatever sport technique they're going to teach, and then it's, all right, you go ahead and try to kill the person, make
right.
your bones off of this guy right here.
Right.
And that really, after a while, I was like, this isn't, I have a career. I'm not,
That's right.
I'm not looking to go out. I don't want to be the UFC champ. Dana White's not coming and knocking on my door. He's not calling me saying, hey, Brian, you know what? You're next up. That just wasn't for me.
Even if he did, you wouldn't make much money.
No, I wouldn't. Anyway,
there's not that much money to be made.
No.
In those days, whatever. So, I heard you say, like, you had something to prove. Like, you needed to prove that to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt the same way, man. I felt the same way at Renzo's. George, what do you think was like the driver for you to like go and experience what you did, and what did you find?
Yeah, I think we really thought you said it a while back, and we talk about this, like, don't really, I want to say this the right way so we don't have to edit it up. Like, you don't really have much to contribute until you get a black belt, and like that could be a turnoff. Like when I heard it, I was just like, man, like
F that guy.
Yeah, like what's up with that? Like what? Like like my rank matters for something that it does. It just doesn't matter enough for you to have a real opinion yet. There's a place for it, right? And and I look back and I'm like for all the things that we were mad about, like again, like, oh, I have a Ferrari, but you won't let me drive it. Right. And we used to say that all the time. We used to laugh. We're like, I don't understand these guys. So you give me a Ferrari and you don't want to let me drive it. It's like, yeah, because you'll crash it. Because you're not responsible enough to handle that Ferrari yet. Like, you're going to get yourself. So, like, when we went out to, like, look around and say, okay, I got this blue belt and I'm doing all this S training. Like, does jiu-jitsu really work? Like, am I going to get a real chance to, like, And when I went out there, I was just like, oh, wow. Like, we were able... I just want to be respectful. Like, we were able, because we shared a match with some of these people.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
We're still around some of these people. Not that we shared a match with them, but like, I found that.
Of course, you build relationships.
Yes, that's what thank you for that. Thank you for the help. Like, I found that our jiu-jitsu was like really dialed in.
Yes.
And that like at a blue belt level, we were able to like fend off like high level guys and like people who were competing all the time. And like we weren't competing, we were like just working guys, like hobbyists, right? So it's like, oh wow, okay, this really does work. And then what I also found was just like what Brian was saying, like I'm gonna get hurt. Guys are out here to like not help you work. Like you're not gonna go to an open mat and like go, hey, like nice to see you. Can you help me work out this problem I'm having with my half guard trap? Like, no, what you're gonna do is more than likely be like a grappling dummy for somebody who's higher level than you. So it's like, man, this doesn't seem like a smart way to like, I'm gonna get hurt and then I can't go to class and learn.
Yeah.
It's like maybe I just gotta like learn more and then I don't need. So that's kind of like what my experience was. Like I found what I was looking for, which is like, oh wow.
I remember the day that I said that on the mat. Like it was during the graduation, and there was probably 100, 150 people on that mat, and like a couple of Brazilian world champions had just moved into town, and everybody was starting to like question why we wear a clean uniform.
Yeah.
Why we don't do the gauntlet where people get whipped with belts with no shirts on. And Poha, why aren't we all going out for drinks? Like, and I said, like, you guys don't know what you're talking about, and you won't know what you're talking about till you're black belts. So may I suggest you shut the fuck up? I didn't say it like that or close to that, but put your gi on and train and get a black belt, and then you'll know what you're doing. You know what you have. And I always think it's very interesting because both of those Brazilian teachers, they're gone. They both moved, like the hot shots all moved. And like, where are these people now? Where are the people that had to go, and do the thing with the guy that then turned their back on them? That I just always thought it was interesting. And like, I don't know a lot of them got their black belts. A few did.
Right.
And a few are I believe, respectable jiu-jitsu practitioners. They're like Alex. Alex is very good. Like, and he certainly made amends with me, and he's doing good stuff. I believe he has a good pedigree. And the other thing is like, in my effort to save you guys, like I was thinking about this, that period was very hard for me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why it was hard for me. And I wasn't, in retrospect, I wasn't disappointed with you guys. I was disappointed with myself because I like came from an environment where I would have died for my teacher. Like, I remember when people first, started talking crap about the changes at the Renzo Gracie Academy. And like, I would call guys out. Like, I would call them up and go like, listen, if you got a bad word to say about Renzo, like, meet me here.
Right.
And we will handle that. We will handle your opinion. In retrospect, maybe it was a bit extreme, but that's how I was. And I was disappointed at myself that I couldn't create an environment that gave you the same thing. And, that's something that I have to take accountability for. And it was my effort to protect everybody that came in the door, because I was encouraged to break people's knees and ankles and arms. Like, I'm of the generation, I'm the first generation of jiu-jitsu, American jiu-jitsu in this country. And the Gracies needed to establish all of that. And it was not, it wasn't winkety wink. It was go get that guy and smash him, break him. And I'm not proud of that. I wish I could have saw my way through that. You guys know that.
Yeah.
But it was out of that I was trying to kind of protect you. And, I was just talking to my friend Tom about this. Like, he was saying that like his friend's mom, we were talking about this kind of subject. His friend's mom used to do his homework for him. And she thought it was a loving act.
Right.
But it was the worst thing she ever could have done for him. Like, she basically destroyed him. He's
disenfranchised him.
Yeah. And they just, he can't do anything for himself as an adult. And maybe there's some of that. I still believe, like, you guys are still training, and you guys are still actively in a practice, and you guys are still, I believe, formidable. I mean, certainly you are for me.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
and so, like, if we were talking in terms who wins this whole thing, the people who are still coming, the people who are still showing up. Like, you might be great, but if you were great 20 years ago and you haven't trained, what does that matter?
Yeah.
Or if your shoulder's blown out or your knee's blown out. So, it's my confession to you. Like, I wasn't disappointed in you. I was disappointed in myself. I wish I could have created something that thing I had for my teacher, for you guys.
Actually, and George and I, we speak about this a lot. We feel, in retrospect, when we look back, we were like, damn, we just went about this the wrong way, man. Like, we should have just said something instead of like, man, F it, we're going to just do what we want to do. And, as I told you many times, like, I'm a grown man. Like, I knew where I was supposed to be. I wasn't ever planning on going anywhere. Being that I was already exposed to certain things. And I'm like, I don't want to be part of that other environment. No disrespect to the other environment, but that's just not something that I want to do. And I'm starting to see now, like, when speaking with a lot of people, a lot of previous students, like, they're like, even up to today, someone called me like, do you think Gene? I'm like, listen, man, I don't know, man. Like, I said, he's in a way different place, but right now, look, if you're somewhere, just train, man. Just train where you're at. We have a good environment here. And just leave it at that.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like, I would never call my teacher by his first name. I just don't. Like, and I don't require it, but, like, it's not something I do. Like, I can't even say Mr. Vizio's first name. I won't even say it right now. Like, it's never been a part of my thing. So it's fascinating, So you go through this process, and then I believe what I've seen is that you take on an idea or an identification of martial arts practitioner rather than like hobbyist or athlete or, I'm not saying you guys thought this, but I have thought this, not about you, but about the jiu-jitsu gang member. It's like my school, my academy, this gang wins
this flag.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. So take me through that. Like, is that accurate that you both consider yourself martial arts practitioners now? And then, like, what was the impetus for that? What made you kind of consider that? And what is that for you now?
For me, I'm a martial artist who trains jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
There's a difference. I don't even call it Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
I tell people I practice jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Like, I don't want to just isolate it and make it one thing. It's jiu-jitsu. And for me, this culture here, man. Like,
which culture?
The Brazilian jiu-jitsu culture, not our culture, because we have a dojo.
Yeah.
And I emphasize that to people.
Yeah.
This is the dojo. It's a complete difference than an academy or a school.
Yeah.
I try to really hammer that home with people. But for us, when we went to ADCC.
Yeah. You went recently. We went to the last
ADCC. And we were walking around like, oh my God, the testosterone. You could cut it with a knife. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Everybody.
What does that mean?
I'm just going to give you my interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my school. Look at me. I'm here. I'm this, Porhada. Don't tell me nothing. Don't say anything to me. This was literally like what I got from there. We were sitting behind a gentleman. You guys were more interacting with him than I was. I was just like, this guy is out of his mind. He's screaming and he's yelling. Like, he's one of Wagner's guys. Nice guy, but he just epitomizes what the culture is now. And I was like, nice guy, but I just want to watch some jiu-jitsu. That's it. And the egotistical nature now of this, I'm not even call it the art. Just like I said, I want to separate the jiu-jitsu from the art. We practice the art. People could take that for whatever they want to take.
Thank you for listening to the Gentle Art Podcast. Please share, rate, and review. And if you have any questions or you'd like to reach out, please contact us at the GentleArtPodcast@gmail.com or contact us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or thegentleartpodcast.com.